Thanksgiving in the U.S. is big business. More than 160 million pounds of butter, 80 million pounds of cranberries, and 46 million turkeys land on dinner tables across the U.S., not counting the ones made of pastry. Here's a look at how some of our favorite Thanksgiving foods make it to our holiday tables. Cranberries bring a bright, tangy burst of flavor to Thanksgiving dinner, and Ocean Spray farmers are North America's top producers. But they only have 6 weeks to get 100 billion berries from the bog to grocery store shelves. Here's how they do it.
Hi, Allison. How are you, honey?
Awesome. How are you?
Well, it all starts here in the bog. You might recognize it from those commercials.
Hi, we're Ocean Spray cranberry growers.
And this is our 100% juice.
Starting in the middle of September, the Gilmore family begins preparing its 100 acres of bogs for the wet harvest. Normally, the bogs look like this.
Come right on.
Dry fields.
You can walk on this and not damage it. The cranberries grow just like this in a layer of sand, peat, gravel, and clay. We use water to harvest the cranberries, but they don't grow submerged in water. Some of the cranberry vines here on the bog are almost 90 years old.
When it's time to harvest, Allison will flood the bog with about a foot of water.
Once we add the water, the cranberries start to float on the vine. Cranberries have 4 pockets of air inside.
To knock the berries off those vines, farmers use a cranberry harvesting machine.
You can fairly easily take them right off. The harrow that Ben is using, he actually built that.
The berries pop off and float to the top. Then for the fun part, farmers strap on some waders and trudge out into the water.
The cranberries are all floating to the top and we're standing on top of the vines. There isn't anything quite like the experience of standing in a bog, but it does feel like I'm being hugged by all the cranberries. I do love that. As you can see, this is a wide open space and we've put in place all the CDC guidelines. We are socially distanced by the nature of when we are farming, and we've put in masks.
From inside the bog, farmers use what's called a boom to corral all the berries bobbing on the surface.
One of the things that is surprisingly difficult is pulling the boom. It's heavy.
100% of Ocean Spray's cranberries are grown sustainably. But not only is wet harvest environmentally friendly, it's also efficient. Allison's family can harvest up to 10 acres a day.
We are harvesting in all different weather.
We work every day for 6 or 7 weeks, whatever it takes, 8 weeks sometimes.
The berry pump right over here, we can come over here and see. And as you can see, we're paddling and gently pushing the cranberries into that pump that's right there. The paddle helps to control the rate of which the cranberries are going into the pump. And the pump gently takes the cranberries up into a truck called the berry washer. The fruit is coming up through here. It builds up, and then as it moves along, it goes in here where there's a grate, and all the fruit gets washed, and it goes into the back of the truck.
Those trucks say goodbye to Gilmore Farm and head out to the receiving station just up the road. Here, trucks coming from Massachusetts and Rhode Island line up by the dozens, waiting their turn to unload. Once in front, they back up and get locked into this giant lift. Hydraulics lift the front end up, and all the berries tumble out the back. The berries are cleaned again to get rid of the rest of the leaves and vine bits. Then they're boxed and sent to one of the manufacturing plants. 1.5 million barrels will be processed here in just over a month. It'll take the manufacturing plants a year to go through all those berries. Over at the plant in Middleborough, Massachusetts, berries are turned into the products we see on the shelves.
We process all the fruit and freeze it, and then when it's frozen, we can slice it to make that optimal sweet dry cranberry.
That's Scott, head of engineering here.
We're going to go out to our fruit delivery area and see where the fruit comes in, and we kickstart the process. It's going to be very loud, so we'll be wearing ear protection and PPE.
To continue operating under COVID-19 restrictions, Ocean Spray had to implement temperature checks, mandatory masks, and social distancing in its factories. After suiting up, we followed Scott into the freezer.
We store 3.1 million pounds in our local freezer, which is about 2 days of production.
The berries chosen for craisins, juice, or sauce have to be frozen first.
Once it's frozen, it breaks down the cellular structure inside the cranberry and allows the juice to be released and processed.
After they're frozen, the berries are spiked to break them up.
Frozen fruit comes into the process, then we slice it, we defrost it, and then we extract the juice from the berry. This is where we're extracting the juice.
Once they've got the juice, it's sent here to become a concentrate. That concentrate heads to another facility where the water, juices, and other ingredients are added in to become the now very famous juice.
About 4,400 cranberries go into a typical bottle of cranberry juice.
But after the juice gets extracted, those leftover berries don't just get thrown away. They become the dried cranberries called craisins.
As the fruit enters the dryer, it's a 210-foot dryer that has 3 stages where we dry the fruit to the customer's specifications.
Once there's no liquid left, the dried cranberries can get flavorings.
Today we're running strawberry on our production line. It smells like strawberry shortcake in the facilities.
Now for the sauce, Ocean Spray's first product, introduced back in 1930. This year, Ocean Spray expects Americans to buy nearly 60 million cans of the stuff for the holidays. The berries get ground up into a puree. About 200 berries, along with sweeteners, go into each can of jellied sauce.
The process hasn't changed so much. Some of the equipment we use and some of the training that's required of the personnel has, but the general concept has not changed in almost 90 years.
Once all the products are finished, they're packaged up. And this robot does all the boxing.
This is our finished goods cooler where we store product that's waiting to go out to the customer. We have 3,500 pallet spots in here and a total of 5,500 at the site. So less than 3 weeks, we turn all the inventory over here in the cooler.
Between all the flavors of craisins, juice, and sauce, Ocean Spray has more than 250 SKUs, or product types, on shelves across the globe.
50% of it goes to Europe, and then the rest goes to our distribution centers here in the United States.
For many, Thanksgiving dinner isn't complete without a side of mac and cheese. Here's how a century-old Vermont creamery makes 130 million pounds of cheese each year.
In the tiny town of Cabot, Vermont, this creamery has been churning out dairy products for 100 years. Their claim to fame? The Vermont Cheddar. Cabot Creamery makes about 130 million pounds of the stuff each year, and it ends up on shelves across the U.S. Their extra sharp cheddar nabbed first place in the 2019 U.S. Championship Cheese Contest, while their mild and medium cheddars got first in the 2018 World Championship for Cheese. Yep, such a competition exists, and I want to be a judge. So how does Cabot Creamery make the world's tastiest cheddar cheese? Well, it all started here in Vermont, on a family farm. In 1919, 94 farmers in Cabot, hoping to better market their dairy products, formed a cooperative. This co-op meant the farmers not only owned the Cabot brand, but saw 100% of the profits. Fast forward a century, and the creamery still runs on this model. But today, more than 800 family farms across New England own Cabot. Farms just like this one. This is Fairmont in East Montpelier, Vermont.
My name's Clara, and I'm a third-generation dairy farmer here at Fairmont. My husband tells me that he's eaten more cheese since he's met me than he ever did in his life before.
As part of the Cabot Cooperative, Clara's family knows exactly where their milk is going, and even what products it'll become.
Our milk mostly becomes hard cheeses and butter.
Cabot deals with making, marketing, and selling the cheese, so the farmers can focus on what they do best, milking cows. Clara's family has almost 1,500 Holstein cows at their 2 farms, one here in East Montpelier and one in Cranberries, Vermont.
We ship about 5 million gallons of milk a year.
Fairmont milks their cows using a milking machine, attached to the udders by a farmhand.
The cows are being really well cared for and loved by family farmers, and that's really special.
But some of Cabot's newest farm facilities are using robotic milkers to speed up the process. Once the milk is collected, it's held in tanks until a Cabot truck arrives. These trucks can come up to 3 times a day to load up the supply of fresh milk and transport it to the Cabot plant. Here it will become either butter, cottage cheese, sour cream, yogurt, or of course, cheese. Cheddar cheese. It takes Cabot about 10 gallons of milk to make just 1 pound of cheese. To make Cabot's signature cheddar, first the milk is pasteurized. The milk is then poured into a huge vat where a starter culture of bacteria and the special enzyme called rennet are added in. This combo jumpstarts the process of curdling the milk into cheese. And as the cheese is formed, big steel wires break it down into small curds and a liquid known as whey. Once the cheese curds are cooked through, the whey and the curds head to the finishing table. Here, the whey is drained out. Salt is added in to cut some of that acidity. This is also the point where Cabot can add in herbs and other ingredients to make their specialty flavors, like super spicy habanero and the cheese for us weaker heat seekers, the pepper jack. After that, everything's mixed together. Next, the cheese curds are squeezed together to form massive 40 or 60-pound blocks. Those blocks are then sent to the aging room, where they're left in a temperature-controlled space to mature. These folks are the cheese graters, the people responsible for making sure Cabot's cheese is aging up to their world's best standard.
On average in our inventory, we have close to 70 million pounds of cheese that we repeatedly will sample on an everyday basis. Some days we're evaluating up to 150 samples or vats a day.
When the cheese finally makes it to the aging room, the cheese graters take a plug, or a sample, out of each block.
Good flavor. It's a good Monterey Jack, a little salty.
And Monterey Jack is typically a short-aged cheese, so younger cheese. It's got moisture added to it, make a unique profile.
As the cheddar gets older, the flavors that develop become more intense. Yeah, every batch tastes a little bit different. 1,000 different farms, I mean, the mix is always going to be a little bit different. Cheese is a living organism.
Graders like Gina and Ted determine when a cheese block is ready to be cut. The blocks head back to the factory for the finishing touches. An industrial slicer breaks those puppies down to a more edible 8-ounce block.
Almost every Thanksgiving dessert needs a little vanilla, and it's one of the world's most expensive spices. Here's how farmers in Madagascar produce 80% of the world's supply.
Here, farmers have to pollinate 40 million orchids that only bloom for one day a year.
Raha trena mafy izy dia lasa potsiky, simba, tsy lasa fleur, tsy lasa gosy sy ny lavany.
Only then will a vanilla bean or pod grow. Inside are the seeds and oils used in popular desserts. But Madagascar is still one of the poorest countries in the world.
Volatility of the vanilla prices, this bust and boom, creates such a toxic environment there.
Farmers can earn more when the price of vanilla is high, but rampant inflation often follows, and the big bucks attract thieves, who attack farmers and steal crops. Today, farmers arm themselves to defend their vanilla.
Ny ologno mpamboly lavany kofa very lavany zany efa ratsy ny fiainagna satria tsisy raha magnidy bola aminazy.
Farmers can plunge into extreme poverty when prices are low. The government has tried to stabilize the price, but it's backfired. And now global customers are turning to other countries for cheaper vanilla. As locals fight to protect Madagascar's green gold, they worry how much more they, the land, and this crop can take.
Isan'andro zany ny halaviran'ny lalagna imboako avy amin'ny tanàna mandeha amin'ny volanaha eo amin'ny 2 kilometra.
Razafin Salama grew up on a vanilla farm, and 7 years ago he bought this hectare of land for himself. Vanilla is an orchid that grows on a vine.
Hitantsika eto zany ny fandehan'ny vahotro tahony lavany. Izy zany mandady mirorogno ambany.
And it grows best in this rainforest environment, where there's plenty of rain and sunlight. But vanilla isn't native to Madagascar. It's actually from 10,000 miles away, in Central and South America. Indigenous groups like the Totonacs and later the Aztecs cultivated native vanilla for centuries, thanks to this insect. Orchid bees are needed to pollinate a vanilla's flower, allowing a fruit, or that pod, to grow. After Hernan Cortés conquered the Aztecs, he brought vanilla back to Spain in the 1520s. It became popular across Europe in desserts like ice cream, creme brulee, and sweetmeats, which Queen Elizabeth I loved. Except the Spanish still controlled the trade. So, hoping to get in on the market, other European countries tried cultivating vanilla on their own, but they didn't have that bee. So their vanilla vines wouldn't produce any fruit. Then in 1841, on the French-controlled island of Reunion, a 12-year-old boy figured out an answer. Edmund Albius discovered that the orchid could pollinate itself if he moved aside the membrane separating the male and female parts. Albius was born into slavery, but even after he was freed in 1848, he never made money off his discovery and died in poverty 32 years later. France took Albius's work and started growing vanilla on the French-ruled island right next door, Madagascar. It thrived here because the growing conditions were perfect. Today, in towns like Ras Al Khaimah Salamas, almost everyone works in the vanilla industry. And they still hand-pollinate every orchid, just like Albius did nearly 200 years ago. Each flower blooms for just one day a year.
Izy kofa haniry asa fleran'ny lavany, dia tsy maintsy fatsika ohatran'izao zegny ampiasaigna andeha haniriagna ny fleran'ny lavany. Raha atao meky zany fleur po mety ho simba. Tsy atao mafy izay. Vita zany ny fleur.
Ras Al Khaimah Salama works alone and can pollinate up to 500 orchids a day. It takes about 9 months for a pod to grow. The price of this vanilla bean has skyrocketed in recent years due to rising demand and the destruction of crops by cyclones. In 2018, vanilla hit a high of nearly $600 per kilo, more than the value of silver. It's since dropped to $250 a kilo, but that's still a lot. And those prices are really attractive to thieves.
Maharegny lavany lafo vidy, dia lasa mivadiky ny lohany mangalatra.
So many farmers in the region are arming themselves and patrolling their fields at night, when thieves usually strike. Thieves stole 20 kilograms of farmer Berlin Ronnery's harvest, leaving his vines bare.
Hanafika zareo amin'ny tegna miamby, voatiry an-tegna tafy mampiasa. Nanomboka tamin'tao zao, nizaha reto saboha sy ny basikily reto, ko indesiko iarovako ny tenako sy ny fanagnako.
In 2018, officials estimated 10% of the year's harvest was lost to theft.
Eto zany tragno anaha, tragno fambolagna fitaova, sady tsy ampiasagna lavany.
He often sleeps out here overnight.
Lasa miasa aloha lava zany amin'ny fiambiasagna azy satria mpangalatra andeha handroba, andeha handrava. Tegna tsy tafandry mieritreritra azy.
And because farmers only get one vanilla harvest annually,
raha kafa very agnatin'ny taogno raiky, mijaly izy sahiragna, na ny hanigny hohanigny tegna ampanahiragna.
Some of the thieves are actually children, driven to steal because of poverty. They were held in overcrowded and unhygienic prisons in the northeast of the country for years without trial. Farmers have started branding their vanilla beans with identifying codes, making the crops easier to track if they do get stolen. Another protective measure, some farmers pick their beans before they're completely ripe to beat thieves to harvest.
And so the quality goes down a lot.
This year, Ras Al Khaimah Salama was able to wait until his beans were completely mature.
Mazava ho azy fô 15,000 gosy hitretiny ho azo.
Farmers have to move quickly because the pods start fermenting immediately once they're picked. They pack the vanilla pods in 40-pound bags. And haul the loads for miles along dirt roads to the market. Traditionally, middlemen, called commissionnaires, bought these beans in their raw green state, and they held a lot of negotiating power over the farmers, since the beans spoiled quickly.
The middlemen are definitely making a lot more money. They can kind of tell people whatever price they want.
So some years, farmers walk away happy. In other years, they can barely make ends meet.
I have heard farmers say things like, you have to have courage to plant vanilla because it may not be worth it at the end. You may not get anything.
Nowadays, Razafin Salama sells his pods directly to a cooperative called Sahanala.
Manokana fa orinasany mpamboly vanille jiaby mikambagna ao agnatiny.
Sahanala representatives check the bean quality and the brand on the bean and pay the farmers directly in cash, cutting out the middleman and promising a consistent price. Today, Razafin Salama earns about $17 for a kilo of raw green vanilla. Sahanala takes the beans to one of its processing facilities, employing thousands of workers across Madagascar. But even these large operations still have to protect against thieves.
Raha ny valeurany vanille izay hitantsika eto amin'ity toeran'ity androany dia manodidina ny 2 380 000 euro.
The facility has electric fences, surveillance cameras, and private security patrolling at night.
Anisany antony mahatonga zany fepetra rehetra noraisina iarovana ny lavania ny asarobidiny sy ny valeurany.
But it'll still be another 3 months of painstaking work before the vanilla is export ready. First, workers have to sort the beans by quality and size. Next, they wash each bean to remove any impurities. Then the beans get dunked in hot water to release the compound vanillin. That's what creates the distinct vanilla flavor. The beans need less than a minute, depending on how ripe they are. They have to run the bean baskets so they don't lose the heat from cooking. Workers move the cooked beans to boxes where they'll sit for 48 hours. When they take the beans out, they'll be brown.
Eto aoriana aketo zany dia misy an'ireo ankizy izay mitatitra lavany izay handeha ho atapy ny masoandro. Atapy ny vanille mba hahatonga ny humidité anazy mihena, hahatonga ny goût stable, ary ihany koa mba hahatonga ny hanitra ny lavania hivoaka tsara.
There, the beans will stay for 15 to 30 days, depending on the moisture inside.
Natsaka ny oragnano kela nyabayaba anongoko vanille tamin'ny labasy. Tsy manjazy ka fa le tsy mety aminazy le manjary mosy ka le.
Zareo zany manao triage manala le vanille tsy mitovy ny couleur anazy. Zany hoe misy tam'le vanille somary masaka loatra nandrahoana dia iny mila alana mba tsy afaka.
In the packaging room, they massage the beans to release the oils and the vanilla fragrance. Careful not to damage the beans, they group the pods in bunches. Then they check that there are no stray metals, like nails, hidden inside. Workers then weigh the boxes and package them for shipping.
Bon, soit elle est vendue en bout, soit elle est extraite, parce qu'aux États-Unis, la demande est très grande pour tout ce qui est pâtisserie.
Sahanala's vanilla beans end up with American-based food processor Archer Daniels Midland.
Le fait aujourd'hui de s'être associé en joint venture avec Archer Daniels and Midland. On a plus vu notre production augmenter.
Exporters like Sahanala earn the biggest bucks. This cooperative has a turnover of $40 million annually. That's because cured beans are worth a lot more. Today, Sahanala earns $250 per kilo for its cured vanilla, a 1,300% increase from what farmer Razafin Salama made selling his raw beans.
The bigger problem is the volatility of the price.
Miakatra izy, lamigny kokoa zegny ny fiainana, raha mirorogno izy, vao amay zegny sahirana zegny mitokan-trano.
In those low-price years, farmers live in extreme poverty. Like 81% of the country, many earn just $2 a day.
I vola azoko amin'ny lavany zegny tsy tegna mahampy ny fiainana ny menakavy agnatin'ny taogno raiky.
So many farmers grow other crops, like vegetables and peanuts, to supplement their incomes.
Mamboly zaho, mamboly vary, dia magnano fompiagna madinidinika. Fô ny vidin'ny lavany ndraiky edy, ahafahako mamilogno zareo ara-tsakafo sy mampianatra zareo ary mitaha zareo amin'ny lafin'ny fahasalamagna ohatra ka marary.
During years of high prices, farmers, middlemen, and exporters would make more. But this also drives up inflation, making everything more expensive.
In the ideal world, vanilla would consistently get a good price.
To balance out the ever-changing price, in 2020, Madagascar's government introduced a minimum base price. Today, it's set at $250 a kilo for the exporter.
They want to protect against this crazy up and down, right?
But it hasn't gone to plan.
Unfortunately, it appears that most people are not going along with paying that minimum price.
Global companies are turning to other countries that sell at cheaper prices, or they're buying synthetic vanilla.
A lot of this depends so much on the government of Madagascar and whether they will change tactics and go back to allowing their price to more accurately reflect the global price.
Farmers are betting on cooperatives like Sahanala to alleviate the need the government can't fill. Sahanala can guarantee that its farmers make $17 a kilo, at least $2,600 a year.
Zay ahafahanay miasa, ahafahanay magnano fampandrosoagna aty amin'ny tany misy zahay zegny ivola io.
But as they face theft, an unreliable government, and shifting demand, farmers at the center of the industry are unsure of what's next.
Demand for vanilla is continuously increasing. And so if Madagascar could find some stability, and if these farmers could find some stability, that there's no reason for the outlook to not be really, really good for vanilla in Madagascar.
The undisputed star of this holiday meal is the Thanksgiving turkey. Here's how one farm takes it from pasture to plate.
This is Hell Week at Gunthorpe Farms in Indiana. They'll harvest 1,000 turkeys in 3 days. It's a fraction of the estimated 40 million birds that will be slaughtered across the U.S. for just one meal, Thanksgiving. Americans love cheap turkey, but not all turkeys are created equal. So we went to Indiana to understand the true cost of Thanksgiving turkeys. Greg's family has been raising animals this way for 4 generations.
Yeah, they get rained on. Occasionally they even get snowed on, but they get to live the life of a turkey.
They're raised on grain that's not genetically modified, and Greg never gives them antibiotics.
The typical turkey is raised in a barn with several other thousand turkeys. Ours, get to go out, scratch in the ground, chase after some bugs, get to actually see the sun, breathe fresh air their whole life.
Catching this many birds the week before Thanksgiving takes teamwork and patience.
Turkeys start out as a not very intelligent bird, but they got a lot going on when they get to this age. They got a personality.
The next stop is the processing plant, where they'll spend the night. But we'll catch up with them later, after Greg gives us a tour of the farm.
The animals that we consume ought to eat their green leafy vegetables. They ought to get some exercise and they ought to get some sunlight. There's a handful of other farms that are raising pastured turkeys, but it's a really, really small percentage of the marketplace.
All kinds of farms in America have been decreasing for decades. At the same time, the farms that have survived have gotten bigger and bigger. Greg's turkeys cost up to 3 times as much as mass-produced turkeys in the supermarket. The intensive work it takes to raise his birds means they'll sell for up to $6 a pound.
Our biggest cost is that we just have more labor in taking care of birds.
Let's get back to those turkeys we left at the processing plant. It takes about 10 people working 3 long days to kill and package all of these birds in time for Thanksgiving. Workers hang the birds upside down by their feet and make sure the turkeys won't feel what comes next.
We stun our turkeys with electricity. I think it's a really good and humane way to slaughter turkeys at a small scale.
Greg's processing plant is audited and certified annually to prove his poultry is humanely raised and slaughtered. Next, Greg tosses the dead turkeys into the plucker, a machine that spins the birds to remove their feathers. Then, workers remove their organs. At the end of the line, Greg's son Evan dumps them into ice baths.
We want them to chill as rapid as possible. These all have to last all the way into Thanksgiving. So the quicker that we can get them to chill, the better the shelf life is going to be on them.
But keeping the business going just keeps getting tougher. Over the past few years, turkey has grown to be about 15% of Greg's business. That's because for the first time in 2 decades, the farm is missing what used to be its biggest seller.
This was our pastured chicken operation last year. It was about 250 chickens in each one of those. We'd have 20 to 30,000 chickens on the farm at any time and would process about 3,000 of them a week.
These now empty fields used to bring in half of the farm's revenue. But in 2020, Greg abandoned his chicken business.
An awful lot of our business was focused on raising pastured chicken for 20 years. It was probably the most difficult business decision that I've ever made.
His chickens cost nearly twice as much as the cheap poultry that American consumers have come to expect. Wholesale buyers picked cheaper, mass-produced chickens over his.
I'm extremely worried that the turkeys is going to go the same route as chicken.
Last Thanksgiving, Greg lost a longtime retail turkey buyer. He says the order was canceled at the last minute.
If you lose a big wholesale buyer, it can be devastating on a business like ours.
Greg had to put hundreds of unsold Thanksgiving turkeys in the freezer. He later cut them up to sell as parts instead, but it wasn't as profitable.
We get dropped on a regular basis by wholesalers, and it's almost exclusively overpriced. In some cases, we're able to differentiate our birds, and in some cases, we're just not.
Greg should have an advantage with customers who care about where their meat comes from. But corporate marketers are doing their best to tap into those consumers, even if it's just about creative labeling. For example, these 3 turkeys look like they're from different brands, right? Well, Honeysuckle White, Shady Brook Farms, and Honest Turkey are all Cargill brands. That's a food conglomerate that is one of the 10 largest private companies in the world.
At the end of the day, there's really this illusion of choice in the grocery store. We see a lot of deceptive marketing claims being made by these big companies.
Advocacy groups filed a deceptive advertising complaint with the Federal Trade Commission against Cargill in 2020. Cargill told Insider it believes the claim lacks merit and that its turkey production is in line with USDA standards. The FTC said it can't disclose the status of the complaint. Cargill says their turkeys are raised by independent family farmers. This is how it works. Large companies like Cargill or Purdue Farms will often contract smaller farms to produce their chicken in Turkey. But some small farmers say they lost their independence once they were contracted with companies. Craig Watts was one of them. He raised chickens on contract for Purdue Farms for more than 20 years.
The company owns the birds, the company owns the feed.
He says Purdue controlled how many chickens he raised and how he raised them.
I definitely would have not had 30,000 birds crammed in a 20,000 square foot facility.
In 2012, Craig says he filmed Purdue employees on his farm throwing chicks to the ground and kicking birds. He ended his contract with Purdue in 2016.
They give you this image of Ma and Pa kettle and the pitchfork and the nice white picket fence and the red barn and the pretty white chicken, when in reality, the conditions that these animals are raised in are miserable.
In a statement to Insider, Purdue said it was not familiar with Craig's videos and that they don't reflect its current practices. The company also said it announced commitments to animal care, including focuses on farmer relationships and transparency. Purdue connected us with a current contract farmer, Stephen Brake.
We have a whole lot of control of what we do. We're not sitting here at the mercy of Purdue.
Stephen confirmed that Purdue owns the chickens he raises and manages their feed. Back at Gunthorpe Farms, Greg's turkeys are chilled and ready to be bagged. Despite all the extra costs, Greg doesn't want to give up his farming methods, even if it makes it harder for him to stay in the business. In a week, customers will pick up their turkeys from Greg in Chicago or directly from the farm in rural Indiana. And this time around, he plans to sell all of his turkeys.
It's very rewarding to know that we're raising turkeys for people that care about how their food's raised, how it's processed, how it gets to them.
Nearly half of U.S. households serve apple pie at Thanksgiving, and there's a newer option in the mix. Here's how scientists in Washington State disrupted the apple industry.
Scientists at Washington State University have been on a quest to breed the perfect apple for more than 20 years, and they think they finally got it. The Cosmic Crisp hit the market on December 1st, 2019. It was the largest launch of an apple in American history, coming after $500 million in investment, $10 million in marketing, and 2 decades of breeding and testing. We take a look at what it took to engineer what's been called the perfect apple, and why some hope it'll save the Washington State apple industry. In the late 90s, Washington State's apple industry was on the brink of collapse. That's because more than 100,000 acres of trees grown were for an apple that was losing its popularity, the Red Delicious. Once a star of the supermarket, the apple is now criticized for its bland taste and mealy texture. By the end of the decade, farmers lost about $760 million in 3 years. That's when Bruce Barrett stepped in.
I eat an apple every day.
And began breeding what would become the Cosmic Crisp. The goal was to have a fruit that was just as beautiful as the Red Delicious, but also had a sweet taste and a nice crunch.
We had all our eggs are in one basket, Red Delicious. That's not good economics, it's just not good. If we grow more and more of something that people like less and less, that's not a good business model either.
Since then, growers have increased production of other varieties, but the Red Delicious still counts for almost a third of apple tree acreage in the state today. To successfully take its place, the Cosmic Crisp needed to last at least 12 months, about 6 months longer than the Red Delicious. That's because the apple industry's Super Bowl is the fall season, when farmers harvest nearly all the apples consumed through the rest of the year. So the goal is to find an apple that tastes as good in March as it does in October. Which is why Barrett chose the Honey Crisp and the Enterprise as the Cosmic Crisp's parents for their crispness and storage qualities, respectively. But even then, it took thousands of trials and errors.
Take a bite. Soft, terrible. 10,000 seeds, and those seeds grew into trees, and we looked through 10,000 of them, and a couple showed promise, and the one that showed the most promise was Cosmic Crisp.
In the first few years of breeding, the Cosmic Crisp seeds grew into seedlings. By year 4, the seedlings turned into trees and produced their first apple fruits. And by 2008, though the Cosmic Crisp didn't even have a name, it had promising characteristics.
The selection that is now named Cosmic Crisp was one of, I think, 10 selections. So that meant that they were just moving into a point where we would get bulk volumes of fruit that would enable us to do some of that really in-depth evaluation of the fruit.
In the next 11 years, that in-depth evaluation consisted of tons of tests, evaluating the Cosmic Crisp's size, shape, color, crunchiness, juiciness, and tartness. The WSU team tests the ripeness of the apple using iodine to determine the best time to harvest.
What it does is that iodine then it binds to the starch that's in the fruit. As the fruit ripens, that starch turns to sugar. And so when you've stained it with iodine and it's fully purple or black, that's showing that it's really immature, it's very starchy.
The lighter the flesh, the sweeter the apple.
See that juice inside makes it a pleasant thing to eat.
I can eat this all day.
There you go.
That's how you know.
But with hundreds of consumer favorites already on the market, how can a new apple stand a chance?
It takes a big budget, takes a big industry, and it takes a big product. All those things have to come together.
The Cosmic Crisp has it all. Named for its galactic-looking skin, experts expect the apple to take over the industry. By the end of 2019, Washington farmers had grown 12,000 acres of Cosmic Crisp trees, which falls in the middle of apple production for the state. And to catch up with its competitors, $10.5 million went into just marketing the apple. It even has its own commercial. The variety will only be available to state-based growers for the first 10 years.
The growers, they deserve that advantage. They contributed to the research project, and so they have a 10-year head start.
The Cosmic Crisp sells for about $3 to $5 a pound as a premium apple variety, which is more than twice the price of standard varieties like the Gala. Still, the apple's creators are confident the Cosmic Crisp is up for the challenge.
We want people to really enjoy apples, and we felt to have that happen, we had to give them better apples. We had to rise above Golden Delicious, Red Delicious, Macintosh. We had to have an apple that was a much better eating experience.
And more than 2 decades later, it worked. In September of 2020, the Cosmic Crisp won the Good Housekeeping Institute's Healthy Snack of the Year award.
Between mashed potatoes, flaky pie crusts, and dinner rolls, Americans can eat more than a stick of butter per person at a typical Thanksgiving dinner. But not all butter is equal. We visited Brittany, France to see how some of the best butter in the world is made.
In February, we met with Geneviève Bourdier, son and grandson of butter and cheese makers who brought back to France the 19th century technique of malaxage, using this big wooden wheel to knead the butter. To Geneviève, the malaxage is a more romantic way to make butter.
Je suis toujours partie du principe que ce qui était le plus important, c'était les émotions. Après, on va essayer de voir comment on peut faire avec les émotions. Mais si on fait un produit que marketing, ça ne m'intéresse pas. Comme ça ne m'intéresse pas de produire 10 millions de tonnes de beurre, ce n'est pas mon métier. Moi, je suis un tout petit bonhomme et je fais des toutes petites choses, c'est tout.
The malaxage is really what makes Bourdier butter unique. These are 50 kilo blocks of butter extracted from milk, and are pretty standard in the butter making industry, even for the most artisanal. But while everyone else will use huge centrifuges to filter out the last remaining drops of buttermilk, butter at the Bourdier workshop is flattened by a wooden wheel and worked by hand by Eric.
Là, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va vous montrer un malaxage complet. On va découper ces cubes de beurre et on va le transformer. Voilà.
Let's do it.
Little by little, the malaxage is going to give butter a new life. Dating back to the late 19th century, this tool was first used to rework different butters. At Bourdier, it also helps give butter the desired texture.
C'est le plus mauvais moment de l'année pour le malaxage, puisque le beurre, la qualité de la texture du beurre, n'est que le résultat de ce que mangent les animaux. En hiver, les animaux mangent du fourrage, ce qui va donner des beurres blancs, friables, cassants, sans grande odeur. Vous voyez la vis ici, elle est légèrement humide, mais elle n'est pas encore complètement trempée. On est sur des beurres secs. Alors petit à petit, le beurrier est en train de rendre les choses plus agréables à travailler.
Et le bois, ça vous aide...
Le bois ou le métal c'est un geste mécanique, peu importe. Par contre, c'est plus agréable, c'est plus joli, c'est... Voilà, c'est important que ce soit beau dans la vie.
Oui,
Hein?
oui, c'est vrai.
C'est très dur ce qu'il fait là. C'est très dur ce qu'il fait, Eric, là. C'est le moment le plus dur. Et là, il obtient un beurre remarquable et franchement, il n'était pas facile. Hein.
Là, tu vas juste le rouler comme ça. Essayer de l'enrouler comme ça. Tu vas le laisser tourner et après tu vas le reprendre.
It's like no way I'm gonna do this. Comme ça?
Tu le roules, ouais.
Comme ça? Oh, wow, super vite.
D'accord. Les gants, ils sont trop grands.
Let me just go this way, maybe. Oh man, this is going super fast.
Tu ramènes les roues.
Ah.
Sinon, tu vas mettre.
Ok.
Je le
Où?
fais une fois et après, juste en haut. Tu laisses ton doigt comme ça.
Ah, ok.
Juste
Ça
aller-
marche. C'est
ça,
plus
ça va.
petit. C'est plus petit.
Mais ici. Allez.
Ici?
C'est bon.
Yeah, when you see him doing that, it almost has like an harmony. It's not easy. Monsieur Baudet said this is 50 kilos of butter. So try and lift a bit of it. It's going to be like what, 10 kilos just in one go? Il faut combien de temps pour apprendre à
Alors,
ramasser le
pour
beurre comme
apprendre
ça?
ce métier, 3 ans.
3 ans.
Oui. Vous savez pourquoi?
Non, pourquoi?
Parce que le soleil et la pluie ne tombent pas de la même manière tous les ans. Et c'est le soleil et la pluie qui vont donner à l'herbe et à la terre un goût particulier que les vaches doivent aimer et que les saisons vont mettre en musique. Le printemps, l'été, l'automne, l'hiver. Et que pour apprendre à découvrir le beurre, qui n'est que le résultat de la nourriture des animaux, il faut 3 ans.
Eric then salts the butter using fine salt. This step is crucial to make sure the butter finally rejects all the leftover water it has in it.
On est en train de voir, vous voyez, quelque chose. La vis est en train de se tremper, l'eau est en train de couler, le sel est en train d'attaquer la molécule de matière grasse, et la molécule de matière grasse prend le sel comme une agression et rejette l'eau qu'elle a en elle. Et l'eau s'en va. On va avoir perdu presque 1 litre d'eau.
Ok.
Mais,
I
et
know-
je
yeah.
finis, en perdant l'humidité, je concentre la matière sèche. Dans la matière sèche, il y a le gras, et dans le gras, il y a le goût.
Oh wow. So actually I can see that it's getting wetter and wetter. It's picking up more water.
Vous entendez le bruit? Quand mon beurre chante, c'est qu'il pleure. Quand mon beurre pleure, c'est qu'il chante.
According to Genevieve, they work with old techniques, but they're not trying to recreate an old recipe.
On travaille avec des méthodes d'hier, mais on utilise un lait vivant d'aujourd'hui. Donc le beurre que je fabrique, le but de mon beurre n'est pas d'aller retrouver le beurre de 1857. Ce que fait Eric, c'est véritablement quelque chose qui n'existe plus. Ce que vous voyez là, c'est des gestes du 19e avec un lait de 2020 et c'est comment restituer et perpétuer la qualité de nos anciens, mais en vivant dans le monde d'aujourd'hui. Donc, je vais prendre un tout petit morceau.
Big one? Ah non.
Non, 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 like this, ok. Voilà,
It's
c'est
so
passé le temps. It's very salt.
It's softer than the butter I'm used to.
24 heures plus tard, le beurre d'hier.
It's much sweeter this one.
Le sel s'atténue, le sel ne disparaît pas, mais son intensité diminue. Et par contre, le goût de la crème est plus important. Un bon beurre ne doit jamais être mangé en sortie de baratte ou de malaxeur plateau. Il doit être mangé 3, 4, 5 jours après. Parce que les équilibres, l'harmonie des goûts se met en place. Les cannelures, les stries que l'on voit dans le beurre sont la preuve que ce beurre a bien été fabriqué chez nous. C'est la reproduction de la vis cannelée. Et ça, c'est la preuve irréfutable.
Parce que vous êtes les seuls
Et voilà.
à l'avoir.
Bourdieu also makes flavored butters, including chili butter, buckwheat butter, vanilla butter, and more.
Vous faites aussi du beurre avec des algues?
Oui. Ça a été mon premier beurre composé en 1985. C'est un beurre un peu particulier qui est intéressant parce qu'il est à la fois très coloré et en même temps extrêmement parfumé. Et je vous laisse le goûter, vous fermez les yeux. Fermez les yeux, voilà. Fermez les yeux. Vous n'avez pas de problème. Fermez les yeux, vous n'avez pas... Ça va? Vous n'avez pas les pieds mouillés. Parce que ça arrive souvent avec le beurre aux algues qu'on ait les pieds mouillés. Ça va?
Yeah, very
Très bien.
fresh. It's very fresh and yeah, it tastes like seaweed, but yeah, it's not fishy at all. It's nice and sweet. It really reminds you of that like seaside wind when you just sit there at the beach and you can smell it. It's
Attention,
something like
oula.
that. Whoop, what's up?
Il y a des mouettes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're just like being catapulted into the picture now.
Une odeur terrible.
It's marvelous.
It's marvelous.
It's really incredible. And so, and this one is your like signature from Brittany because you're from this region.
It's the roots of my identity. Ça, c'est une vraie identité, comme le beurre au sarrasin. Il faut que ce soit comme ça. Et puis, si je vais au Japon, c'est comme ça que j'ai découvert le yuzu. Si je vais ailleurs, je ne sais pas. Peut-être un jour, si je vais sur Mars, je ferai un beurre tout vert. Je ne sais pas.
No, I would like to taste that then.
After it's ready, each stack of freshly churned butter is then placed into this butter cutter, another machine signature to Bourdieu.
Il était très important qu'au moment de faire les modèles, nous n'ayons pas de machine qui soit violente, mais qui soit très douce. Or, ce petit poussoir, les mottes de beurre qui viennent d'être faites vont dans le poussoir et tout simplement par un effet de vérin sont poussées ici et grâce à cet appareil qui date du 19e, par l'écartement de chaque corde de guitare, nous avons le grammage désiré.
There's a lot of water, so
Il y a toujours de l'eau.
yeah. So this means that there's still water that's coming out of the butter.
Ma méthode traditionnelle, il y a toujours de l'eau. Nous ne rajoutons pas d'eau. Au contraire, on en enlève.
Cette machine, est-ce que vous êtes le seul à l'avoir?
Ah oui, ça, alors là pour le coup, oui. Et on l'a encore utilisée, cette machine-là, il y a 250 ans. Vous voulez que je vous montre où? Pendant la Révolution française. On appelle ça une Marie-Antoinette. Je vais vous interpréter une œuvre du 18e pour harpe et beurre.
Oh non. So 50 kilos de beurre. Hein?
Regarde.
Oh
Il en reste.
The only thing that is left is shaping, and just like the rest, it is all done by hand. Each shape and size is custom. Some chefs may order these bite-sized shapes, others may just buy the whole stack and cut it themselves.
C'est des modèles uniques. Il n'y a pas de machine ici. Nous sommes des êtres humains. Vous voyez, avec le petit pompon.
Ah, ok.
C'est extrêmement rare, il est tout seul à le faire. Et là, pareil, vous voyez, c'est des modèles rares. Il y a plusieurs tailles.
Ça ressemble à une construction qu'on a en Italie, en fait, dans ma région.
Ah, c'est vrai?
Oui. Est-ce que vous connaissez Albero Bello?
Oui.
C'est ça. Est-ce qu'il y a une différence entre les objets qu'il utilise?
Il peut y en avoir, oui. Je t'arrête. Déjà, il y a une partie striée, une partie lisse. Là, elle est petite, là, elle est grande. Et à chaque fois, la main de l'homme ou de la femme va travailler comme ça, comme ça, comme ça. Ça dépend. C'est un métier, hein. Merci.
Est-ce qu'il y a une raison particulière pour laquelle vous avez cette forme très petite?
De faire ça d'abord, parce qu'en fait, si on prenait un morceau, voilà,
Si on arrive comme
voilà,
ça,
vas-y, fais-le. Alors en fait, il y a des craquelures partout, alors que là, il n'y en a plus. Voilà, c'est la qualité de la texture et le visuel, l'esthétique en fait. Hein. Mais nous avons fait énormément d'études. Hein. Nous sommes des scientifiques du tapé du beurre. Donc actuellement, le match est entre Lucienne l'embobineuse, Fred le mastiqueur.
There is something in this butter.
Mon grand-père avait fait le même métier bien avant. Et j'avais toujours entendu dire que ce métier était difficile, compliqué, voilà. Mais j'ai un défaut. Je fais toujours le contraire de ce qu'on me dit. Et comme ça, je peux comprendre. Et en fait, je suis tombé amoureux. Aujourd'hui, il y a peut-être 2% de la production beurrière qui se fait en baratte. Tout le reste se fait avec des butirateurs, des canons à beurre. Hein. Il faut nourrir le plus grand nombre. C'est très important. Hein. Mais je pense que, vous voyez, effectivement, si dans l'endroit où nous sommes, on remplaçait tous mes collaborateurs, tous mes compagnons par des machines, on irait beaucoup plus vite. On gagnerait certainement beaucoup plus d'argent. Mais il ne se passerait plus rien ici. Si j'ai fait ce métier, c'est aussi pour qu'il se passe quelque chose. S'il n'y a plus rien, ça ne m'intéresse pas. Amen.
If poultry isn't for you, you can always substitute a showstopper turkey made of cake.
Sarah Hardy makes incredible, realistic cakes and chocolates completely by hand. From realistic chocolate fossils to severed head cakes, her work is often creepy and incredibly lifelike. Her turkey cake is made from 4 layers of sponge, covered with a bright pink buttercream icing. This icing helps give the bird its realistic pink skin tone. So how do you get into making these shocking cakes?
I was an artist and I went to art school, and one of the ways that I paid my way through my exhibiting years was to make waxwork figures for museums. And we travelled around and made displays of battle scenes, and I mean, a lot of the work that I was doing was travelling. It was also using chemicals that I didn't want to use when I was pregnant. So I stopped. It did go a bit bonkers because I stopped working. And then once I had kids and they grew up a little bit, I could start making them cakes, and I couldn't help but start making sculpted cakes for them. So that's where it started, and then it just got slightly weirder and weirder. You know, we all know what cake is, why not change it and just have a bit more of a laugh? When you're buying a chocolate or a cake, you tend to be giving it to someone as a present. So it's someone, you want to give them an experience, not just a taste experience. You can give them the experience of surprise and a little bit of joy as well. But most of the ideas are just things that I love. So I'm interested in natural history, internal organs, historical artifacts, and if I like it and I think it's cool, I'll make it edible.
The process of making one of these intricate cakes can take days and would cost over $600 to order.
Most of my work is highly realistic, so it looks like something else, and the idea is that there's a moment where you're not quite sure. I just wanted to shock people whilst giving them pleasure, because I mean, a cake is always going to taste nice, but it's always good to give them a question what they're looking at.
Once the cake is fully shaped and coated in icing, small dots of marzipan are placed all over. When the final layer is added, these give the impression of plucked skin. The final layer is a thin sheet of marzipan. It's draped over the cake and then worked carefully to add fine details. Once it's all in place, the finishing touches are ready to be added. String is tied around the legs, and the details are painted on in food dye. A syrup glaze is even used to baste the turkey and give it that shiny appearance. And once all that's finished, it's ready to serve. Sarah sells a range of her amazing chocolate work through her website. And if you want to make your own turkey cake, there's even a tutorial available on the site too.